Hi everybody. Please be sure to like and subscribe as I try to grow my channel. So I'm back. As some of you know, um, I have decided to commit myself, which is rare to anything. Um, commit myself to this challenge with the Free Black Women's Library in New York, and that is to read 25 books by black women and non binary black authors. Okay, so this one doesn't count toward that as I'm saying it out loud because it's by W.E.B. Du Bois. But in the spirit of always learning about blackness and Afrofuturism, I do bring this here to you. This book is called The Comet. And it's a really actually short story that W.E.B. Du Bois, the first African American man who earned a PhD from Harvard, and he happened to do it in history, and who was a Fiskite, went to Fisk University with his HBCU education. Was actually, I found in an article while I was teaching a cultural literacy class in Harlem on Afrofuturism, and I was trying to find for them um, something that would give them background on the history of Afrofuturism. And one of the things I didn't know was that of all the things I have read by Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk, the Philadelphia Negro, because he is the father of American sociology. No, not the father of black sociology. Not that anything would be wrong with that, but I'm making a point because white people had to follow his lead. Why? Because he had to go to Germany when they had been just starting that discipline over there because they wouldn't give him opportunity for education here in the United States. Okay, get into it. All right. So anyway, um, so many things, black reconstruction, all these things that people pushed away, dismissed a lot at the time, because he was a black man that was so much smarter than so many white people. But he was for a long time an editor of the NAACP's magazine, The Crisis, where they published information about lynchings, about black accomplishments, about black medical health. I mean, really radical work. But the comet was something I had learned about at the time and given the kids the article last year, but I hadn't read it. So I decided to order it. And it's a very short story, but even while I praise Octavia Butler, and she is the godmother of Afrofuturism, not realizing that there were so many works prior to this. They give us a little intro. So this is very short, very obtainable. It's a short story. That's actually a short story. Um, and W.B. Du Bois is, we get this beginning of the book, right? Where there's this knowledge about the comet, it's all over newspapers, and it's just in the city of New York. And there's this black man who obviously serves, well, not obviously, but he serves as, a doorman, somebody who has to go for people and, do errands. This is his job, this is his work. And he is from Harlem and then has to go, to downtown New York to work. And he's hearing all this stuff about the common. He's hearing these white people talk about it, and nobody's really taking it serious. Well, he's not taking it seriously. Like they're always worried about something that has nothing to do with us. What's his attitude? Well, this comet hits New York and knocks everybody out, except for him. And it protects him because he was sent down to the vaulted basement to get things that nobody else ever wanted to go down there and get. So when this comet hit, he was actually protected by it. That's a nice move, boys. And what happens is he realizes that these people are dead. I mean, they're set in motion. He's walking over bodies. And he almost thinks it's just in the building until he walks outside and he's like, nothing. Silence. He describes it that way. And anybody who has ever lived in New York City or been to New York City knows when they say the city that never sleeps, that city never sleeps. Except when Cuomo had a shelter in place during it kind of slept for a second. But anyway, so everybody's dead and he's walking through like, what the hell? And he's just kind of like, he doesn't really feel anything for these people at first. His concern, though, is about Harlem because that's where he lives, that's where family, friends. And the only thing that he hears that is alive is it's not wind, it's not the rustle of papers, it's a voice crying, and it's a white woman. who happened to be the only one to survive. And in this short story, she asked him essentially for his help. And she says, well, do you know if anybody lived? He said, everybody's dead. Like, he's very, like, just whatever. And they managed to get access to this car. And she was like, well, where are we going? We need to go this way. He said, no, 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 we're going to Harlem first. She was like, Harlem? And the way he describes her facial expressions, her energy, you can tell those things that black people pick up on very easily and know, oh yes, because they're racist, and other people don't. He describes it very well, and he says, no, we have to go check on my people first. And he was like, Harlem, and he's describing how there's just dead bodies. He can't find anybody. His family, his mother, his cousins, his friends, the kind of life. He describes the culture that now all of a sudden is gone. Then he takes her to go look for her father, who's very rich, and he had wrote a note to her, and she just starts sobbing and sobbing. And he's kind of over it as a jaded black man. And she asked him, she was like, so do you work hard or do you have to work? And he said, of course I have to work hard. I'm a Negro, right? And she says, well, I'd never had to work. I had lived pretty idle because I was rich. And he was like, like, okay, yeah, surprise. And throughout the story, what he describes as Du Bois is narrating these characters, the woman's name is Julia, we find, and his name is Jim Davis, but we don't find that out till the end, the black man, is that introspectively, this black man is saying, I was nobody to you yesterday. I was nobody to you years before. I've always been invisible to you. I never mattered. And now that everything else is gone, you have no life. You need me. And even still, you managed to make this about you in the worst way. You still are constantly continuing to make things about you and what you've lost and how rich you are. How dare you? And you're only acknowledging me now because you literally have nobody else on this planet to talk to speak to, or who could help you. And it's really a testament to how black people had to live in the 1920s. And in many ways, it's, obviously remanifested itself in other ways for black people now. But it's certainly something to think about in the ways that white people render us invisible. The way black women, I know in education, have talked about this over and over again, how administrators only seek out their help once things go bad. Don't really want their opinion after that. They just want to help solve the crisis that they created. It didn't have to be. By not promoting us, not listening to our voices, that kind of thing. And there's so many moments in here to think about. And by the end of the book, after this, there's this sort of suspended animation. People come back alive. He starts hearing the trains scroll back and forth. Some people did their slowly awakening. And her father appears and he asks how she is, and so does her, which may have been her fiance. She wasn't married. But he's like, well, Julia, how are you? I was scared. I don't know what happened, this, that, and the other. And he sees her with this black man. And he gets ready and, wants to lynch him and everything. And this is in New York. Okay, so miss me with the Southern phenomenon of racism, okay? It's an American thing. And it has always been that way. And Northern whites like to tell themselves that so they don't have any responsibility in breaking down this racist society or taking responsibility for the perpetuation of it. Miss me. And, Jim Davis is even just like over it. Like, I can't even, and she, rushes to his defense and says, no, oh my God, this man has done nothing but help me, right? And the white man her father takes a wad of money out of his pocket and hands it to him and just says, thank you, and walks away. They don't try to get his name. They don't try to get to know him. They just walk away. And the father tells the fiance, basically, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. My daughter's alive. Leave it alone. And all of a sudden, he hears screeching halts, and somebody calls his name. He turns around, and it's his wife with a baby in her arms. Jim Davis, the black man's wife. We didn't know anything about his family. We didn't know he had a child. And it ends by him looking at the money. One, this is money he never would have had it not been for this incredible suspension of time. And one of the things Julia asked her fiance was like, well, did we lose all our family? He said, no, this only hit New York. Everything in New York is gone, not the same, but the rest of the country is fine. And then we get Jim Davis looking at the money, looking at his wife with the baby in her arms, who was distraught and now relieved by seeing his face. And he knows he can take care of his family. And it just leaves you thinking with a lot, right? He would have never gotten that money had time not been suspended. That white woman wouldn't have seen him as half a human or noticed his existence had a damn comet not come out the sky to destroy every sort of stabilization that she had experienced for no other reason than her whiteness and her wealth. And I like books that are well crafted, well constructed with character development, even when they're short. And I tell people that, and this is something I had to learn because I'm used to reading really large, thick books because I'm a historian. But to learn how to enjoy books, and just because they're short doesn't mean they're not powerful, or kinds of books. And this is one I would suggest because I would love to know what other people think. And so much of our history gets buried, and it gets buried by the idea and the facts that white people will stop publishing Black work. It's not because Black people never wrote it. We will literally lose access to it. So to a large degree, I did get a small paperback copy, even though it's easier to deal with stuff with a Kindle, just for things like this, because I'm not sure if it'll, always be around, and it won't, to show up again. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that, particularly for those of you who have any interest in getting, close to Afrofuturism, even before it had a name, to take a look at it. All right. You all have a great weekend. I will talk to y'all soon, though. Bye-bye.